Next, do you organize company retreats for yourself? No. Hi guys, Annette here and welcome to another episode of Growing Up. So a while back, I did this video where I crowdsourced questions from you guys regarding leaving a full-time job to freelance. There were actually a bunch of questions that came in which I did not answer because they were very specific to what life is like as an independent creator and my creative processes. So I actually missed out a ton of questions in that video which I did with my friend Xenia. You can go check it out. And once you're done with that, you can come back here and I'll continue with more detailed questions regarding what it's like to be an independent creator, which I've been doing for 3 years now. So I'm just gonna dive right in. Okay, first question is what disciplines you to get work done and not procrastinate? I have to admit, right, that when I first left my job, it was really difficult to master up discipline. Because the truth is, when you're working at a full-time job 9 to 5, your schedules are kind of set for you, your deadlines are set for you. But when you're on your own, you have to set your own deadlines and you have to schedule your own life. And in a workplace, there's basically consequences, but then when you're on your own, there are no consequences. When you first quit your job, you're running on adrenaline. But after the initial spark of excitement is gone, then you just take your time when you're in the thick of it. So I really had to sit myself down and I told myself, if I want to live this life, then there's a price to pay for freedom. And I just needed to tell myself that, like, Annette, if you want freedom, you're gonna need self-discipline. This quote that I read somewhere said, the best kind of self-love is self-discipline. And I think it's so true because we think of an independent life as, yeah, you know, I can do whatever I want, but there's a lot of responsibility that comes with it. So on the days where I just don't feel motivated, I tell myself that I need to get this done. If I don't regret it right now, I'm going to regret it 1 year later. But I must say, okay, one thing that does help me also is number one, setting deadlines for myself. So I set targets that are achievable. If I were to do 5 videos a week or something, if I gave myself that target, then likely I won't be able to hit it and then I will get demotivated and then not continue, right? So it's setting realistic targets. It's about once a week. Number 2, having a bit of a routine, which I'll go into later. Having a bit of routine on the days where I'm not heading out for work. And number 3 is giving myself some rewards. So what I'll tell myself is, okay, if I get everything done by dinner time today, then I can go out and have a nice dinner. And ever since I had my baby, I tell myself, okay, if I finish everything by evening, then I can go for a walk with my baby, which is always a very nice time. This question goes, how do you plan your days? So let's not talk about the days where I go out for, let's say, an external shoot or performance or some kind of live event, okay? But let's say it's a day where I'm at home the whole day. So I set a bit of a routine for myself, which is I wake up in the morning, the usual wash up, and then I exercise. So either I go for a jog or I just work out at home. After that, I take a shower and that's when my day begins. So either I film some stuff at home or I just get some edits done or I reply messages, write ideas and plan things all the way till evening. And then after dinner, I see whether I want to work or not. So it's not a very fixed routine, but I think what helps is that constant, which is the workout in the morning. And I think that changed everything. Like some people wake up and the first thing they do is make their bed. I don't do that, unfortunately. I'm sorry. But that first thing for me really sets the tone for the day, which is I got something accomplished and it gives me the push for the rest of the day. How many hours do you work a day? Is it more or less compared to a company? This is very interesting, you know, because I tell you, I do not count my hours. I just go by my targets and my deadlines. So as long as I clear something, I've met my plans for the week, for the day, then okay, I'm done for the day already. So actually, if anything, it's working towards clearing that task so that I can end work early, and then when I'm done, I don't even count anymore. Because I think when you're at a full-time job, your hours are sort of fixed, and if you have a task that you sort of spend the whole day doing, and then you manage to finish it at 3 p.m. when your office hours ends at 6. It's not as if you can go home at 3 p.m. But over here, because I'm working for myself, if I end at 3, yay, pangkang. So right now, I'm not so obsessed with numbers and hours. There are days where I definitely work less, like I said, if I manage to clear something faster than I expected. But if it's days where somehow there are a lot of things that come in, sometimes there are days here where I'm just really swamped with work, but there are also days where I'm pretty free. And then there are days where I'm on shoot where it can be 10 to even almost 18 hours of shoot, which I've done before. So those are much longer. But if I were to average it all out, maybe about the same. Have you ever run out of creative juice? I'm guessing this person's asking me how I deal with it also, right? Have I ever? I mean, of course, I've had creative blocks quite often. But over time, because it's been almost 3 years since I've been independent, I learned that there are ways to get over writer's block. So number one is actually setting days aside in your schedule to just do nothing. I try every 1 week, but sometimes it's kind of impossible. But so around every 2 weeks, I set a day where I just go out and just read and journal and walk around a nice part of Singapore, like a cool neighborhood or something, and then just not think of anything. And honestly, it's in those moments where I'm just shutting off my brain where I get the best inspiration. These chill days are often not on weekends because weekends be very crowded, and half the time I'm working on the weekends also. So usually it's a weekday, and I like that it's very quiet. If I go to a cafe out in the middle of the afternoon, there's nobody around, and I get that space to myself, you know. Number two, there are days where I'm just, for some crazy reason, super creative. So sometimes I have a lot of ideas at once, so I write them all down, but I don't have the time to say shoot everything or produce everything into a piece of content yet. So I just keep them there as a bank. And so that if there are days where really I have no new ideas and I gotta get something done, but it's also not my set day to go out and chill, then I just refer to that bank, and oftentimes there are a lot of ideas in there, and then I just start working on those instead. So it's good to have a idea repository. How do you plan out your content? So I will plan on Google Calendar, and what I like about Google Calendar is that there are things in a lot of different colors. So I'm going to talk about this not just in planning the content, but in terms of planning the pre-production, the preparation stuff, and also planning the edit and everything. So usually, let's say I try to plan for 1 video a week, and then I just slot that video into the calendar, and then from there I will slot in shoot days, which are of a different color as well. Maybe I'll try and show you guys a rough screenshot of what my calendar looks like, but I won't show you exactly the words of what exactly is each item. But basically, IG posts and IG stories are in purple, and I put my shoot dates in yellow, editing, which is in orange, which sometimes I don't even allocate time for editing unless it's for a YouTube video, because I can edit pretty fast for short videos. And then if I have some kind of Zoom calls for work or preparation stuff that I need to do, it's in green. And when it comes to longer videos, I actually plan first on an Excel sheet for the year what I want to do, because that one takes a bit more time. From there, I'll port over into my Google Calendar, where YouTube videos are read. And then again, I work backwards. I find dates where I can slot in edit and I can slot in a shoot. And it's been really helpful. It helps me see a content plan in a much more organized manner. How do you secure funding for a mini-series? There are a lot of grants around for creatives, right, in Singapore, but people just don't really go and search for it all the time. But if you really want to, you can always search for it and then just figure it out. And there's a chance you can get it. So I'll give you an example. Actually, I think one of the first grants I ever received was my debut EP. It was called All Our Achilles Heels. And all you have to do is just send in a bunch of demos, explain about your work, and I think they give out quite a number of EP funds, grants a year. And the same came for the Ann and Ben show. We applied for funding from NAC as well for the first season and then the second season. For Asian Billionaires, I got a lot of help in other ways, like sponsors in the form of wardrobe from Love Bonito and Benjamin Barker, and Canon also very kindly loaned us equipment. We had Tong Look when it came to the restaurants, locations. Yeah, so that's pretty much how I secure funding. And if you are also planning to create your own independent project, apply for grants and look for sponsors that you can collaborate with. When it comes to creating bigger projects like this, it does take a longer runway. And I know it's probably a bit uncommon for a solo creator to make a whole show, but it was something I just really wanted to do. Ever since I graduated film university, I just really wanted to make a web series. I decided I'll just make it happen. I'm not gonna have a crazy budget. I'm gonna get help whenever I can. So I wrote 5 episodes, keeping logistics and budget in mind. So that's why largely, if you realize, right, Asian Billionaires was mostly shot in the house because I didn't want to have to bust the budget having to go to 10 million different locations and all that. If you listen carefully to the soundtracks of Asian Billionaires, right, there are a couple of the songs which were actually some of my old songs that I rearranged with my music designer and made it into the soundtracks. I think it's the last song of the first episode and the last song of the last episode. One of it is my song Gold and one of it is my song All He Had, and was a rearranged instrumental version. So very useful to be able to understand a lot of different things, and that's how, as an independent creative, I was able to create a whole web series. Next, do you organize company retreats for yourself? No. Should I? I would say, okay, my version of the company retreats are actually the days where I go out and chill. Because when I journal and I write and then I reflect on my thoughts, I do reflect on my life and hence my work as well. And yeah, I don't plan long trips for myself, unfortunately. Those will be just holidays. How do you get jobs? Do you pitch to clients or do they come to you? Like, how do you advertise your services? There are very, very occasional times where I actually pitch to clients, but it's pretty rare. But I would say when it comes to pitching to clients, right, usually you need to be very clear that this is something that will be a very good fit for you, and hence you discuss with the client. So I would say a couple of the brands that I actually pitched to, one of them would be Canon, for instance. So I'll give you an example, right? For Canon, I actually worked with them when it came to one of the cameras before that already. They came to me and they sponsored me a camera. But after that, I pitched them for a much longer term partnership, and it was because I had just left my job and I knew I was going to film a lot of videos on my own. And so I said, hey, maybe let's work on some things together. Canon was the first camera I used ever since I was a kid. And so we worked on something that was a longer term thing, and that's just one example. And till today I'm super grateful because they were one of the first few people who really worked with me solo ever since I became independent. Yeah, so most of the time clients come to me, but I also again have to see whether I think it's a fit for me, whether it's something I'm interested to do, or whether it aligns with what I care about. Which leads me to the next question is someone asked also, how do you decide what projects to take on or not? First of all, I think about I think whether it aligns with who I am as a person. If this is even a product I use. I'll give you an example. There are some phone brands that have contacted me and they want to pay me to switch out my phone, to use their brand of phone. But I just did not take it on and deal with the inconvenience because I don't have to learn a whole new device. So it really helps out because I'm able to understand a product or understand a service if I'm already using it. If it's something that doesn't really align with my values, then usually I don't take it on as well. Sometimes it could be as simple as the period in which I'm doing that I am away, I'm out of Singapore, or I am just too packed and I'm unable to take it on. Yes, but most of the time I try to make it work, and these are just some of the things that I consider. Any late payment clauses? I don't have a late payment clause. I have a cancellation clause, but I don't have a late payment clause because when it comes to trying to give someone a specific deadline, it can be a bit tough because in this industry, sometimes there are certain bottlenecks here and there. So I just don't have a late payment clause, and so far it's been fine. Everyone that I've worked with has paid me. I wouldn't say on time because I don't really set anything, but I would say a good range before you start thinking that it's long is the max I would give is 90 days. So after 90, then that's when you kind of chase people a bit, like poke, hello. Yeah, but usually if it's a company that is trustworthy, it's fine, or someone I've already worked before, it's fine. Sometimes if it's a new company, then maybe I'll work something out, like a portion of the payment is paid upfront first. Then later on you continue. Then they finish up the payment at the end of the project. So that does help things out. What is a breakdown of your income sources? So this is kind of interesting because I do have a lot of different income sources. Some people wondering like what in the world do I do, right? So I'm going to split it into about 3 parts. So the first one would be hosting, performing, acting, and it's split into online events and physical events. And then I also do some sponsored posts and advertisements. Sponsored posts are either content that I create on my own page, Or there's also the kind where it's TV commercials, advertisements, those are much bigger projects, and sometimes I'm just a talent in those videos, but sometimes I also am part of creating, say, the concept or the jingle. The last one would be actually royalties and ad revenue. So I have Spotify streaming revenue, and then there's also ad revenue that comes to YouTube, I think Facebook as well. Yeah, so from all these different revenue streams, I do take a portion of them and use them to create passion projects like my web series and music and whatever not. Yeah. What's it like being your own boss? Do you have to hire your own team of people? So surprise, surprise, I actually do not have a full-time team of people. I think some people think that I have a full-time team, but actually most of my team are all freelance. They're not bound to me by a contract or by chains. But I have a manager. I think that one is the most important thing, honestly. If you're a full-time creative and you are not an admin person, some independent creatives are quite administrative in their brain somehow, but I would think most of us are not. So it's really important to get a manager to do administrative work for you and to do some liaising, because sometimes you might be slow in replying clients, or you're not that fast in coming up with numbers or coming up with dates. I'm bad at numbers and dates, okay? So it's really useful to have a manager to help you out all of that. But other than that, no, I do not have a full-time team of people. So, but maybe one day, who knows, maybe one day I will hire a couple of people. If you're interested, let me know. Next, do you have any medical benefits? Can you take MC? Unfortunately, as an independent, self-employed person, you do not have medical benefits. If you are sick, you just have to go to a doctor and pay for it yourself. But it's okay, this is just one of the downsides that I'm willing to deal with. Did you take maternity leave? Yes, I did. I was actually very surprised, I really honestly thought that there was no such thing as maternity leave for non-full-time workers. And it's actually more of like a maternity pay, because it's not like I stopped working entirely. I think I worked really little the month before and month after I gave birth. But in general, you need to be filing your taxes properly if you want to qualify for this maternity leave thing as a self-employed person. Because if you've not been filing it properly, you cannot claim this, because it's based on your income. And I think as an independent creative or any kind of self-employed person out there, right, it's really important to file your taxes, because that's how you are able to qualify for certain loans, like home loans and stuff. I'm able to qualify for a home loan even though I'm self-employed, which I find is very useful, because you don't want to find yourself in situations where, you want to take a loan and then you can't. Do you contribute to CPF? Yes, I contribute to my CPF because it's tax deductible, and also because you have to contribute to Medisave by law, I think. So yeah, if you haven't been doing that, you gotta do it. Did making it your career make it less fun? I understand why it might seem like making it my career might make it less fun, but honestly, no. Honestly, no, it's not been less fun. It's actually pretty fun. And I understand how sometimes, you can make your hobby into your work, and then it becomes tiring, and it no longer has that excitement of something that's outside work, right? But how I overcome it, I tell you a little trick that I do, is that because I do multiple things, right? So I got music, and I got video work, and I got whatever else. Let's say it's a period where I'm focusing on a lot of video work, I'm focusing on my web series. Then I'll do some music on the side, and then I count that music as a hobby. And then on days when I'm free, and I'll work on my music. So I see it as a hobby. And then if it's a period where I'm working on a lot of music, then I'll keep some of these video stuff on the side as a hobby. And so when I'm done with my video, the main thing I'm working on this period, let's say it's music, then I'll go do my video stuff, and it becomes really fun. It's like a hobby. So I kind of just switch things around, and at any point of time, there's a side project, so it keeps things fun. Little trick. What do you think is the best way to break more ground as an independent musician? I'm gonna answer this more as an independent artist, like in general, right? Honestly, I would say just keep creating work. At the beginning, I was also a bit lost, I think one of the best ways in which you can improve and get better is just keep making and making stuff. It doesn't matter if you're not good at the beginning, right? The more you create, the more you're naturally going to get better. Like, practice naturally makes perfect. If you force yourself to practice, say a song on a piano every single day, by the 50th day, as much as you wish you would not get better, you're just naturally going to get better because you're getting used to it and you're learning things and you're holding a skill. So just keep creating stuff, and at some point, I'm sure people will be able to see that your skill is good. And another thing that is very important to remember, which I actually think is more important, is to just have fun while doing it. There's this quote in La La Land that I really like. It says, people love what other people are passionate about. And I find that so true, okay? Because when you are having fun creating whatever you're creating, people are just drawn to that, and people can tell. And people can tell that you're not doing this because you're trying really hard to be good, or you're trying really hard to break some ground, Just enjoy it. And when you just chill and have fun, people want to be a part of that fun that you're creating, And I think that really helps you break some ground. I think lastly would be to kind of find mentors or find people in the industry that you can talk to, who can give you advice, whom you can just hang out with and make connections with and learn from. I think that's really important. So what are the greatest pros and cons? Do you have any regrets? I don't know if I covered a similar question in that previous video which I did with Xenia, right? I think we might have talked about whether we regretted it. I don't know. But for the last few years, the answer has always been the same for me, which is no regrets. And I would say the greatest pros would be, honestly, like I mentioned, that freedom and being able to truly find that time to hone your craft and find time to create things that you truly enjoy. And I would say it's really more, not just work-wise, right? But it grows you as a person, and it grows you into someone who has more self-discipline, someone who is more responsible. And I mean, it could turn the other way also if you decide to just give up and not care, right? But I think I really appreciated that it forced me to be a more disciplined person, and it forced me to literally become more independent as a person. And I would say one of the bigger cons is a bit of feeling alone sometimes, especially in the day-to-day when you're just doing stuff all by yourself. But I've come to realize that's okay, because I can actually take time out to meet people on my own, whether it's people in the industry or whether it's just personal friends. And if anything, right, I think that's actually one of the pros also, which is in learning to literally become more independent, I feel like I took more initiative to really seek out people to spend time with, to really have a connection with. I used to be so busy with work, right, that sometimes I just get so tired to even meet my own personal friends and stuff, because at work you're really seeing so many different people and you're talking to so many people at once already. I'm quite an introverted person, so it can get very tiring, and then I just don't think so much about meeting people out otherwise. But now I feel actually my time with my friends and even time with work friends is very enriched, because I don't see people very often, and so when I see people like, hey, oh my god, humans! And so I think it's a pro and con. Day to day sometimes it can get a bit lonely, but I also enjoy being able to truly savor every second that I hang out with friends or whether I'm meeting people for work. And so we're done, that's it. Thank you so much for watching this video all the way till this point. I hope I satisfied your curiosity when it comes to some of these questions, and I hope it was useful for you. So if you enjoyed this video, do hit the like button, leave a comment, subscribe, all that jazz. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys soon in another episode of Glowing Up. Bye!